available.
I'm sorry?
I'm available. I have to like 8:05.
Okay. No, it shouldn't, hopefully it won't take extra time. Okay, we're on the bottom of Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. Um, 4 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Yosef. Umaydi Rav Huna b'mikri dardaki, the Leimotzi Ma'ak. Rav Huna was the man, the Amar, who said that one neighbor can stop another neighbor in his own chutzner from opening a competing business. He says Rav Huna is maskim. He's mighty. You can't stop a rebbe from from teaching someone in his own chutzner. The Amar Mar, skip the parentheses because the Bach takes it out. Can aside from Tarba Chachma, having an extra person learning will increase the learning, and therefore we don't put inhibitions on competition and learning. Amar of Nachma Yitzchak Umayda of Hunabraid of Yeshua. Hunabraid of Yeshua had said on the previous Amud that one can stop someone from coming from a different town, according to the Tanakama, that you can stop someone coming from another town and coming into your town and starting a business. That he's if you have these peddlers who sell makeup to the women of the city, those you can't stop. The Amar Mar, Ezra Tikkun Lehem Yisrael, she Roichle Machzirim Ba'Yaris. Ezra was misaken that they should have these people. That he felt it was good to have these peddlers going around into the cities in order to increase shalom bayis. It was important for a woman to have the makeup, so therefore he was misaken that these peddlers should go around, and therefore we don't even stop them because of hasagas gevul. Because of the importance of shalom bayis, we suspend the rules of shalom bayis. I'm sorry, of hasagas gevul, in the interest of shalom bayis, that women should have this. But this is all that you can go. That we said we relax the rules of hasagas gvul, and we let peddlers go and sell cosmetics to people in a different city, even though they're already established businesses there. That's only to go around and go door to door. But that's not to open up a store. Opening up a store, you have the regular dinim of hasagas gvul, and it wouldn't be allowed. Zakt Gemara, and if if this person selling the cosmetics, selling the makeup, is a Talmud Chacham, I feel like vuyanami. Even if he's coming from another town, when normally it would not be allowed to set up a competing business, but like we said, a person is allowed to set up a competing business to sell makeup because of in interest of shalom bayis. But we said that's limited to only an itinerant peddler who goes from door to door, but not a store. But for a Talmud Chacham, he is allowed to even open up a store, even if he's coming from another city. It's not a problem of hasagas gvul. He allowed them to open up their stores to compete against established stores in a different town, which is not like the typical halacha. Normally that wouldn't be allowed. My time, since they are Rabbanan, if they would have to go around, it would take them away from their learning, and therefore they're not going to do it. And since we want to promote shalom bayis, in order for them to be able to sell makeup, we have to allow them to even do it b'kvias. Okay, we're 10 lines down in Chav Beis Amud. Hani di kulai di aisu diklai lebava. There were these basket makers that they brought their baskets to sell them in Bava. Also, when they the people from the town came to protest. Also, they came to Ravina. He said, this is not a problem. They brought their baskets from outside of town, which would normally be a problem of hasagas gvul, but they're bringing it into the marketplace and they're selling it to people who are gathered in the markets who are coming from other places. So it's only a problem of Hasagas Gvul when you sell to the people who are the customers of that town, who are living in the residents of that town. But when it's a gathering place where people come from outside, they are not any less than the people than the residents of the city. That's only on the days where Taka people come from out of town to buy. But not a marketplace day when only the residents are buying. Then it's a problem of a sagas. And even if it is on the marketplace day, only if they're selling it in the shuk where the outsiders are gathered. But what does he say? To go around the city. That they're not allowed to do because then again they're selling to the residents.
Yo, it's
Okay.
interesting. Beforehand, we said Lahadure is
Makes it better.
yeah.
Because the adure there was as opposed to opening up a store. We say if you're coming from out of town to sell cosmetics, so cosmetics were make along because of shalom bias. So when you come into the town, you can go around the town because it's not a heter. There's nothing to do a marketplace before. That was the heter of shalom bias for a peddler selling cosmetics. Now we're talking about specifically the heter of coming from out of town and selling to out of towners. So the hadure over here is means you're not. We're not talking about being kaveya, opening a permanent shop. We're talking about going to a stall in like the flea market and opening up for the day. Right? He's not buying a store because we said it's only on the marketplace day. Yeah. Hanu Amuroi the Aisu Amra Lefum Nara. There were these wool sellers who brought Amra to Nara. Asubne Masa Kama Akvialayu. The people who lived there were protesting and taking away business. Also, they came to Rav Kahana. Amlahu Dinuhu Dema Akvialaychu. They can stop you. You're right. They're right. You can't open up your business here. Amalei Islan Ashroi. These wool sellers said, we have a problem. We've already been selling, and we sold on credit, and that people who owe us money. And if you're going to tell us we can't sell, it means we're just going to be sitting here waiting for a month till everyone pays up their bills. And in the meantime, we can't sell anything. We don't have what to live on. Amalahu, Zilu Zavnu Shir Chiyusaichu. Go and you could sell a minimal amount every day that will provide you with enough to live on. Until all of the credit that you extended is paid back, and then you could leave Basilisu, and then you could go home. Rav Dimi min Hardoi, I see groi spesfina. Rav Dimi min Hardoi brought, this is going to be a little bit of a long story, an interesting story. He brought these dried figs in a ship. Amalei Reish Galusa l'Rava. Reish Galusa said to Rava, Pok chazi yitzubra abananhu nakat le shuka. So this is a one-off. He said, Reish Galusa said, if he's a Talmud Chacham, not only are we not going to kick him out for Hasagas Gevul, doesn't sound like it was an issue of Hasagas Gevul, maybe there was no one else selling it, but we're going to make for him a whole marketplace so that he could sell. To provide, to provide for a Talmud Chacham. Amalei Rava l'Ravada Brahava, Poik Toyle bekankane. Go check if this Rav Dimi is a Talmud Chacham. Go check out what he's got. Nafik Azel. So Rav Barava went to Rav Dimi. Ba'amini, asked Rav Dimi, Pil Shabola Kfifa Mitzris. A elephant that swallowed a basket. The Hikia Derech Beisarei. And then he defecated it out. Mao. What's the din? Does that kli, a kli is makabel tuma, but since it passed through the elephant's digestive system and it's covered in waste, does it have a din like a basket made out of waste, which is not makabel tuma? Do you say that since it's imbued with the waste from the inside of the elephant, it changes its status and it's no longer makabel tuma or not? Lahavabiyad, and that's the end. The Gemara doesn't follow up on this halachic question. We don't find the resolution of it. But Rav Dimi did not know the answer. Amalei Mar, Amalei. Rav Dimi then asked Rav Ada bar Ahava after he was puzzled by his question, Mar niu Rava, are you Rava? Tafachle besandle. He hit him with his shoe. If you remember, like they threw the shoe at President Bush in Iraq. This is the way in Middle Eastern countries that you show disrespect to someone. Yeah, Bava was Iraq, so he hit him with a shoe. That was going on for thousands of years. Amalei, bein didi l'Rava ikatuva. Rav Ada bar Ahava told Rav Dimi, Rav is much bigger than me. Miu al kochach ano rabcha, and I am bigger than you because I asked this question that you didn't know the answer to. The Rava Rabba de Rabcha. So Rava, who is my Rebbe, is your Rebbe's Rebbe, because I'm your Rebbe, because you couldn't answer my question. Rava is my Rebbe. So don't mistake me that I'm Rava. You're not even his Talmud, you're his Talmud's Talmud. Shuka. So they because of this disastrous interview, the Reish Galusa did not provide a marketplace for Rav Dimi to sell his Gregors, Pasud Gregors, D-Day. So they got ruined. He wasn't able to sell them. Also, Kamed Rav Yosef. So Rav Dimi went to Rav Yosef, his Rebbe. Amalei Chazi Mar my Avduli. Look what they did to me. They ruined my life. They made my Gregors go bad. Amalei Mandaloi Shais Lenisa de Malka de Edom. The Rebbeinu Shalom, who did not delay in paying back the insult done to Melech Edom, who was not a good guy, and even so, the Rebbeinu Shalom paid back the insult he received. He's not going to wait. You're going to soon get your satisfaction. The person who insulted you will get what's coming to him. Where do we see that the Rebbeinu Shalom punished the one who insulted the Melech Edom? The Rebbeinu Shalom said, "Al shloisha pishei mayav." On 3 of the avodas of mayav, I averted my eyes and I didn't do it. Arba lo yashivenu. But on the 4th one, that he's going to get punished. Al sherafu atzmis melech edom l'sid. That they dissolved they burnt the bones of Melech Edom and turned it into ashes, into lime. So the Rebbeinu Shalom promised, because of the Melech Mayav burning the bones of the Melech Edom, he's going to punish the Melech Mayav. So certainly Rav Dimi would get compensation or get satisfaction for that he was insulted. And Taka, that's what happened. Nach Nashid Rav Ada bar Ahava. Rav Ada bar Ahava Taka was nifter. And then there was now we're going to see a bunch of different shittas. Everyone was claiming responsibility for the death of Rav Ada bar Ahava. Rav Yosef was the Rebbe of Rav Ada, of Rav Dimi. Amar no anishte. I'm the one who caused it. I'm the one who caused him to get this einish. Because I'm the one who cursed him by saying that the Rebbeinu was going to pay him back. Rav Dimi, who's the protagonist of the story, said, "Ano anishte." I'm the one who caused him to be punished. The Af said, "Gregus didi." I'm the one who suffered that my dried figs got ruined. Abaya said, Abaya was not previously in the story at all, but he jumped into the blame game. Ano anishte. I'm the one who caused him to be punished. Amalahula rabbanan adigamrisu garmi be'abaya suachli bisu shemena be'rava. Rav Ada bar Ahava used to say, before you eat the dried out halachas, the shvacha schayra of Abaya, come and eat the fat basa, the geshmaka basa, the good Torah of Rava. So since he was the subject that caused Rav Ada bar Ahava to be what do you call it? Because Rav Ada bar Ahava he was the one who said this about Abaya. He said better to go to Rava, because like we said, Rava was his Rebbe. He insulted Abaya in the process. So Abaya said, because he insulted me, that's probably why he was nifter. And Rava said it was my fault. When I would go into the store to buy meat, Amalu to the butcher store, Amalu Latavche, it said to the butcher, Anosha Kilna Bishra Makamish Maya de Rava. He said, I should get, Rav Ada bar Ahava would say, give me the meat before you give to Rava's Shamash. Because I'm better than Rava Shamash. Rava is my Rebbe, but his Shamash shouldn't get before me. So therefore, that's why Rava took responsibility that Rav Ada bar Ahava had spoken about him to some extent with disrespect. Yitzchak Amar, Ano Anishte, it's my fault. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Reish Kalahava, he would give a shir, the Yarche Kala. Kol Yuma, Makama Denea Lekala. Every day before he started, he went down to give his shir. Marit Bahadei Rav Ada bar Ahava, this Rav Ada bar Ahava would go and discuss it over with him. He would chazal the shir. Marit Bahadei Rav Ada bar L'Shmaitze, he would go over the shir with him. Vahader Ayel Lekala. And after they finished the chazara, then Rav Nachman Yitzchak will give the shir. Ahu Yuma Nakdu Rav Papa Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua, the Rav Ada bar Ahava, Mishum Delay Have Bis Yuma. Rav Papa and Rav Huna Breder of Yeshua waylaid Rav Ada bar Ahava as he was on his way to go discuss the shir with Rav Nachman Yitzchak, because they had missed the previous shir. And they asked Rav Ada bar Ahava, tell us the previous shir that Rav Nachman Yitzchak had given because we missed it about Maisa Behema. Rava Amalu Haki Amar Rava Haki Amar Rava. So Rav Ada bar Ahava started telling these Tanoim, these Amaroim, Rav Papa and Rav Huna, that this is the way Rava said like this, and then Rava said like that. And in the meantime, Adahachi Nagal Rav Nachman Yitzchak. In the meantime, Rav Nachman Yitzchak was delayed from saying the shir. He was waiting for his Chazar Sashir, his partner, to review it with him before he started. Amalei Rabban Rav Nachman Yitzchak kum the Nagalon Lama Yosef. They said to Rav Nachman Yitzchak, "Why are you waiting? We have to. You wait. You're late for the shir. Why are you sitting down? Let's get up and say the shir." Lama Yosef Mar Amalahu. He said to them, I'm sitting and waiting for the funeral of Rav Ada bar Ahava. He made a joke. He said, he's late, so he must have died. That's the only reason why he could have possibly be late. Obviously, as we've seen many times in the Gemara, that a davar, a word that comes out of a Talmud Chacham's mouth, the Bnei Shalom is mekayim it. And these words, this joke that Rav Nachman Yitzchak said came true. The Gemara concludes this last one, that was probably, all the other things were things that were justified, but this was for no reason. And like we said, when a Talmud Chacham is geyser, the Bnei Shalom is mekayim. So therefore, it's most likely this is what caused the death of Rav Ada bar Ahava.
So all the previous people, they felt guilty that their actions killed them, or they just
you often see that when there's a tzara, we're supposed to look at our meisim. So they were all examining their meisim to try to see what they could have done that caused his not untimely demise. But the last one was someone who did something wrong. All the others, they were looking at what could have caused it. It's not that they necessarily even did something wrong, right? They were trying to understand. But I don't really have any more of an answer than that. Mm-hmm. They were just proposing possible reasons.
Because the one that he offended, I mean, he sounded satisfied, as opposed to the him
which
and his
one are you
was,
talking about?
He offended who was an Abaya.
Yeah, but Abaya was not even him. It was that.
No, I'm saying that wasn't Abaya. The one who had spoiled dried dates.
Because he because he insulted him. He said, that he said you're not a Talmud Chacham.
Right. So he it sounds like he was actually happy. He got a satisfaction.
I mean, he was sent to do a job, and he did his job. So it doesn't sound like he never gave an explanation of why he didn't know the answer to that question.
Okay, but it's.
I mean, I didn't. I don't know. I don't. Did he do something wrong? Really? You're saying because he then got insulted because he asked him if he's Rava. He thought it was presumptuous of Rav Dimi to think he's Rava when he's really it was Ravada Bahava was Rava's Talmud. He said, you come in here, you come into town, and you think, you go. I want to speak to Rav Moshe. You gotta take it easy. You gotta know your place. I don't know. I don't know that he really did. It's from the last thing. It sounds like no one else really did anything wrong. The Gemara is saying Mistabra that Rav Nachman Yitzchak was the one who caused it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I see. So that's the mission. Misha Yakoislo Samach L'Koisel Chaveri. Someone who has a wall back to Bava Basra. Someone who has a wall next to his friend's wall. Lo Yismach L'Koisel Acher. He shouldn't put another wall next to it. Elam Kain Hirchik Mimenu Arba Amas. Unless it's 4 amas away. This doesn't make any sense. What does that mean? You have 2 walls, and then you say don't put another wall. What's the case? The Gemara is going to explain what we're talking about. Hachaloinus, bein milmail and bein milmatan, bein connecton, arba amas. We had this Mishnah was brought before. If someone has a window and you want to build a wall next to that window, you can't make it the wall within 4 amas above or 4 amas below. As we're going to see, there's a brisa that explains because you could lean down or stand up on top of the wall and look through the window. And connecton, as we're going to see in the brisa, you can't do it opposite the window because you're going to take away his light. This is like I said when we learned this the first time, this is one of the most litigated things in Beis Din, right? When someone has a house and someone builds an extension nearby and blocks his light, it happens every day. It's a common thing to come to a Beis Din. So the Gemara. So the Gemara had understood that the kama heichi samach. We're saying that you can't build with that if someone had a wall and it fell down, you can't build it with the second wall within Dalet Amos, even though the first one was closer. Frankly, Gemara, the kama heichi samach. If we're talking about where the first wall fell down, and now you're rebuilding the wall, how could the first wall have been within Dalet Amos? I guess the Gemara could have answered. It's talking about where it was a lekeach, like we've said earlier. But then the question is, why are we talking about this? It has nothing really to do with the first wall. Amar Rav Yehuda hachikam habal lismoich lo yismoich elam ken hechek mimenu arba amos. The mission is not talking about a first wall that collapsed. It's saying someone who is building a second wall next to a first wall shouldn't put it within 4 amas. Maskef l'rava, v'misha hu hayu kaisle samach l'kaisle chaverik tani. It's not what the language of the Mishnah sounds like. The Mishnah said someone who had already a kaisel that was dalet amas, that it was already there. Ela amar Rava, hachik tani. This is the way Rava understands the Mishnah. Misha hayu kaisle samach l'kaisle chaverik berichik arba amas. Someone who had a wall that was 4 amas away from the first one. It wasn't within dalet amas. V'nafal, and it fell down. If the first one was taken more than Dalet Amos away, and then it fell down, and now you want to rebuild it, but you want to bring it closer. You can't bring it within Dalet Amos. Now again, we have to remember, we've talked before in the beginning of this Mishnah about virus. We talked about pits, and we talked about a pit next to a wall. This is the first time we're talking about 2 walls next to each other. So the Gemara says, my time. What's the problem with having walls next to each other? At least up to this, we're not talking about chalainus, we're talking about an actual wall, one wall next to another. What's the big deal to have a wall next to another wall? So Gemara, the davsha dahacha mali lahasam. Gemara says the reason is they didn't have such sophisticated concrete foundations like we have in our time. The way the earth underneath the wall became supported, it was by people walking on the ground near the wall. That would tamp down the earth, and that would keep the wall solid. So if you make walls too close to each other, people won't walk, and eventually the walls will start to list to the side because the earth hasn't been packed down by people walking on it. That's why, again, we have to keep in mind we're talking about two walls. We're not talking about the wall like somehow reaching out and damaging the other, because the wall doesn't send out anything. We talked about a tree sending out roots. We talked about by a bar, when you dig, it undermines. But over here, it's a new problem. So the problem over here is that it will undermine, if there's not room to walk and pack down the earth, it will undermine the other wall. Amarav, loishanu el kaisel gina. This is only by a wall that its back is to the garden, a lawn. So people don't walk on the lawn. So the only side, the other side of the wall, is the only side that people could walk on. So therefore, you have to keep it dalet amos away. There's a wall in a chutzner, so that the people can walk on it and tamp down the earth at least on one side. Have a kaisel chutzner, but if it's a kaisel in a chutzner, in balismach saimach, it's not a problem because people walk on the other side, and that will support the wall. Rav Ashi Aimer, echad kaisel gina, echad kaisel chutzner, doesn't make a difference whether it's a kaisel in a garden that is adjoining a garden, a lawn, or whether it's adjoining the chutzner. In balismach and saimach, you can't adjoin it either way. Amar Rav Yosef bar Chanina v'loy pligi. It's not a machlokes. Ha be'ir yeshena. That which we said that you can do it if it's near a chutzner, but not near a gina. That's in an older city that the earth is already somewhat tamped down because everything has been walked on in the past. So there, it's only not allowed in a wall next to a gina, but in a chutzner it would be allowed. Ha be'ir chadasha, but in a new city, even if the wall is adjoining a chutzner, since it hasn't yet been tamped down on the other side, if you put on a wall on this side within dalet amos, you stop people from walking on this side. And by the time it gets tamped down, the wall will already be damaged. Practic Gemara, Tnan, we said in our Mishnah, Hachaloinis, Bein Milmailam, Bein Milamata, the window, when you build a wall next to it, whether the wall is higher than the window, Bein Milmatan, or if it's lower, Bein Mikonegdan, or if it's opposite, Arba Amos. It has to be 4 Amos. The Tani Allah, and we learned in a Bryce explaining this safe of the Mishnah, you have to make your wall more than 4 amos higher so that people won't bend down and look in. And underneath lower so that they won't stand on the wall and look through the window. And if it's opposite the window, the wall is directly opposite blocking the window, so it shouldn't make it dark. So if the Gemara says, why is the Brisa saying a reason? Because it's going to cause the window to be dark. But the window is in a wall. Al mishum dav shaloi. Why are we worried about? Why does it have to be dalet amos anyway? Because we need to have room for people to walk on the earth and tamp it down. So we're not talking about a wall that is in the Brisa. We're not talking about a wall that is parallel to the first wall. It's a wall that is perpendicular. It's at 90-degree angle from the first wall, from the window. So therefore, the concerns are not al-tzedavsha, because people can walk up to the wall on one side and up to the wall on the other side. It's only a small amount that's blocked off from walking through, and that's not a problem. But you do have these problems of people can look in, and that it will block the light. So how close does this wall have to be to the window in order that you have to make it 4 amos away? Meaning, can it be, how far does it have to be offset? Amar Rabbi Yeva, Chamua da Asher bar Nadvach Mishmei de Rav. Rabbi Yeva, the father-in-law of Asher bar Nadvach, said b'Shem Rav, Kamal Rechav Chaloin. The width of a window, a standard window in those days, was only a tefach. If this wall is only 1 tefach away from the offset from the window. So a person can easily stand on top of it and look through if it's that close, right? The wall is coming right up to the window. So even though it's higher, a person should be able to still look into it. Amar of Zvid, the mother is kaisel. We're talking about a kaisel that is sloped on top, so therefore it's not possible to stand on it. So therefore, he's not going to be able to look in. Fact, Gemara, this is all the Brisa. The Brisa had explained our Mishnah that it's talking about, we said it has to be one tefach away to the side. Fact, our Mishnah that the Brisa was explaining said Dalad Amas. So Gemara, like Kasha. Kan miruach echas. The Brisa is talking about we only have one wall that's perpendicular to the window, and therefore, if it's just as long as it's one tefach away, it's not going to block the light. But the Brisa that said, I'm sorry, the Mishnah that said it has to be Daled Amas is talking about you have walls on both sides of the window. So that even if it's one tefach away, it's not going to help you for light. You're going to have the light's going to be blocked from the other side as well. Therefore, it has to be an additional Daled Amas. The end of the wall has to be Daled Amas away from the window. Toshma v'sakoisel min hamazchila. With the Mishnah on the bottom of the summit says that if you have to if you're building a kaisel, let's say Ruvain has a house and he has a gutter coming off of his roof to take away the water. So when you have a gutter, you have to do gutter maintenance. You have to take a ladder and climb up and clean out the gutter, or else you're going to get a leak. So Ruvain had an easement against his neighbor Shimon that he could take his ladder and lean it up against the wall to fix his gutter. So if Shimon decides to build a wall, the Mishnah says there's a kaisel min hamazchila. If he's making a wall next to where his neighbor has a gutter, Daled Amas, he has to give him Daled Amas. He's like if it's a sulam, in order that he could put a sulam, his neighbor could put a sulam there in order to fix his gutter. So time mishum zulam, al mishum div shalai. But why does the Mishnah have to say it's only because of the maschila? Because he needs to put his gutter there because he needs his sulam. He need to give him Daled Amas because he needs to be able to tamp down the earth. So we're talking about a soffit, a gutter that's on a roof that extends a little bit past the wall. Since there's a little bit of overhang, so people are tempted to walk underneath that overhang. So even if it's less than Daled Amas, you would still have sufficient people walking that it would tamp down the earth, but you still have to do Daled Amas. So you wouldn't need because of Dafsha, but you still need in order that he could put his sulam there. Let's continue a little. Let's do the next Mishnah. Like the Mishnah. A person who is putting up a sulam has to keep it 4 amas away from his friend's chicken coop or his where he keeps his doves. In order that the rodents, they used to climb up a ladder and eat the doves. So you can't put it and make it that it's easy for the animals to get to his doves. Like we just said, he has to leave enough room for his friend to put up a ladder and fix his gutters. Let's say our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yossi. The Rabbi Yossi ha'amar we said that we had the machlekes Rabbi Yossi and the Rabban that comes up throughout the parak. Rabbi Yossi says that you can plant a tree in your property, even though the roots are going to destroy your friend's bar. The other man, the Tanakama, says you have to put 25 amas between them. And Rabbi Yossi says no, it's up to the person who's being the alha nizik, the person who's being damaged. He has to move away his thing. So Gemara filu tem Rabbi Yossi, Amar Ravashi, Kiavina be Rav Kahana, Amar Moidi Rabbi Yossi begiri didei. This is the source that we keep on saying. Rabbi Yossi, even though he holds that it's on the nizik to move himself away, Rabbi Yossi is moida where there's a direct damage, where he is what he's doing is immediately causing that the other person is being damaged. So over here, he's causing directly that the animal's going to come jump in. Hachanami zimin bahadi de manachle sulam, when he's putting up the ladder, yasva b'chor b'kafza. As he's putting up the sulam, the rodent, this weasel, could on the spot jump on the sulam and jump up and get the animals. In fact, the Gemara of Hagramahu, even if it happens directly, that means it happens immediately. But it's still, he's only being gairim. He's not the one he's not the person putting the ladder is not the one doing the damage. It's coming through the interface of another force from this animal that's jumping. So he shouldn't be chayiv he shouldn't be responsible for the damages that's done by the animal. We're going according to the Manda Amar. This Mishnah is holding that taka, even though it's a grama, you're mechuyev for what happens from a grama. Meaning, even though you're not going to be chayiv to pay for it, but you're not allowed to do something that will cause begairim the action to happen, and therefore it could still be considered giri didei. It's still considered a direct action because the Torah does not allow you to do something that causes, even through the actions of an intermediary, you're not allowed to cause it to happen. And this is obviously a very subtle. These are very subtle svaras over here. We're saying something is both at the same time direct, that you're doing it directly, and therefore Rabbi Yossi is maida, you're not allowed to do it. But we're saying it's a grama that it's happening. With the way I understand it is through some other intermediary. But we're saying if you hold grama is asur, you put the grad together, the grama that the grama is asur, and it restores the status as gira didei.
We have to differentiate between planting a tree, that's not considered a grama.
Well, hold on. You're saying grama. You don't mean grama. You mean gira didei. We're saying that when you plant a tree, it's going to take a while for those roots to go and reach the bar. So it's not an immediate, direct consequence of what you're doing. I get the sense it's something to do with time.
Where the Gemara doesn't say that though. We haven't seen time as being as a. I mean, Rashi mentioned it, but the Gemara doesn't seem to, whether it happens right away or it happens 2 years later as a nafkamana.
I think that's included in gira didei. I don't think you can say something is gira didei that happens later. It has to be instantaneous. And that's what we even say when we're talking about this animal. It's not that the animal's going to come in an hour. The Gemara even says that the animal could be hiding in a crack and it jumps up onto the ladder as you're putting it in. So the Gemara is trying to explain that that's how it becomes. This could be gira didei. This case of the ladder is gira didei if the animal is hiding and it jumps immediately. I think anything that's delayed is also not going to be gira didei. But I'm 100% certain that the Achronim have a lot of svaras about what the parameters of gira didei are, and also how that combines with the question of grama. Okay, you know what? Well, I guess let's do another 5 minutes so we can finish this up to the next mission. Yosef had these little date trees, and what would happen was the asu umni biasi tusayu. The bloodletters used his date palms and used them as shade to do their work. Asu urvi achli dama. The ravens were attracted to the blood. Then they would be attracted to the blood, these crows, these ravens, and they would jump in amongst his dates and knock them down. Amalu Rav Yosef, afikuli kurko mehacha. Get rid of these kurkers, these cawing crows, these crowing crows. these ravens that are making noise, I want them out of here. Meaning, I want these bloodletters to not go underneath my trees because they're attracting the ravens and they're ruining my dates. Amle abaya v'gramahu. How can you tell them to go away? It's a grama. Amle hachamar of 21B is grama nizak and aser. Like we said, we just proved from our Mishnah that although you don't have to pay for a grama, you can stop someone from who's being garb you has it. Frek the Gemara of Achsik. They have a chazak of Achsik lahu. They've already been doing this for a while. There's no chazaka. You can't say, since I have a chazaka to do damage to you, I can continue doing damage to you. For Frek the Gemara of Lavitna remember Yama the Kutra of Zvid Amma Bebeis Hakise. Rav Mary says the only time that there's a din that there's no chazaka to nizakin. I'm sorry, so it's only on these. This is still Abaye saying it's only when something is being damaged by smoke, which is a significant damage. Or Rav Zvid says by a beis hakise, if someone has a chazaka that is a beis hakise, on those things the person taka doesn't ever have a chazaka. But on a regular, typical damage, a person can get a chazaka. He said, no, I'm a very sensitive person, and any hezek to me is like the extreme damage of smoke and like a beis hakise, and therefore I'm going to demand that they get rid of these bloodletters that are causing my dates to be damaged. Yashikayach.